Welcome to the Combot Collective.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our third episode of Robot Combat tonight. I'm your host, as always, Sterling Brown, hosting the Combot Collective, bringing everything you want to know from the world of Robot Combat, from the heavyweight class to the flyweight class, from Battlebots to the live circuit. And the co-hosts are finally here. I know I've been promising them. They finally showed up. Hello, Pory Nog Captain Mantine. I know I've been wanting to get you guys on here for a little while. It's been a couple months. How have y'all been? Battlebots has been going pretty well.
Just surviving, moving. You know how it is.
Yeah, living the dream, man. Been enjoying all this Robot Combat content we've had to go over here today.
Absolutely. Been a very busy week in Robot Combat. I wish it could have been a little bit smoother. Some interesting things happen at RoboGames that we'll be talking about here in just a second. It's going to be our big opening topic for the episode today. But it is good to hear you guys again. It's been definitely quite some time. I know you're in the midst of your move, Pory. Hopefully all that's going pretty well.
So
I know you got a new piece of hardware. We've been keeping everyone up to date on Pory's badass robot collection that he's been establishing since we started TCC. You know, we talked about the deadlift arm, and we talked about Gamma Raptor at some point, I think late last year. Talk about the new piece at the end of the episode. You might be able to turn this thing into a table. I don't know.
Into a table, technically.
That would be a sick little coffee table. But here we go. Of course, as always, Robot Combat tonight. And, of course, the Combot Collective is sponsored by RobotsAreMyLife.com. They are the merchandise provider for numerous East Coast Robot Combat teams, including Omega Team and Team Shredded Bro, which you see on Battlebots every single week with robots such as Shredded Bro, of course, the 250-pound version, Star Child, and the winner of this week's main event, Ripperoni, Mamma Mia, Pizza Pasta. That was an awesome performance by them.
Oh, hell
You
yeah.
can find all their merchandise. Yes, it was so amazing. We'll talk about that in the episode.
Yeah.
You can find all their merchandise, the shirts, the buttons, the pins, the pizza boxes for all the Battlebots teams, those three Battlebots teams, I should say, and numerous NHRL teams such as Blackbird, Wake and Bake, the 3-pound Shredder Bro, and other robots, the 3-pound Star Child as well. Find all that in the link below. Robots Ruin My Life. They are the giveaway sponsor of the Combot Collective. But guys, very exciting week, of course. Like I mentioned, RoboGames happened. Battlebots. We had a couple episodes of Battlebots now. Since the span of RoboGames, we've seen some of those RoboGames competitors compete. We really talked about that last week, you know, with the likes of Big Dill, Lucky, of course, free shipping, some of the other machines there. But unfortunately, despite all the amazing new robots and great runs in the tournament we saw, talking about our opening discussion, opening topic here this time, it's all kind of been outshadowed. Amazing runs from Cornholio, Hexadee, Lynx, they've all been kind of overshadowed by, it's a serious thing. I don't say that to like, oh man, I can't believe this happened. Look what happened. No, it's a real deal situation here. It's definitely the elephant in the room. RoboGames was talking all about a new arena this week. It took them a little bit longer to get it up. It seemed pretty sturdy. I mean, robots like Crash and Burn and Mad Catter and Lucky were getting spiked into it. Couldn't take a direct impact here, so I got my notes. Let's go over to point A to point B of what exactly happened in this situation. During an early fight of RoboGames Day 4, the final day of action in the losers bracket, the new heavyweight Manta challenged Terratops, and we would see one of the gray forks on the front of Terratops, kind of similar to the fork we saw on the front of Terratops during the Dragon King fight this week. Spiked directly upwards from a drum impact. It went through the ceiling of the arena, went through the roof of the arena, went directly into the ceiling of the venue, the Pleasanton Fairgrounds, fell outside the arena at a good velocity, quite a good angle, a few feet away from some fans, both in the seats and by the arena. Pretty intense. Could have been a massive disaster. The first footage I saw of this thing, it didn't seem that bad. It looked like it bounced off the arena and came down, but the second footage that Pory actually provided me a couple days ago, that thing was coming in hot.
Yeah.
I mean, the one where they were sitting in the stands.
Yeah, that fork was like maybe 2 feet away from the one cameraman. Like it was a close call for that dude.
My dumbass. I know I was trying to go to RoboGames. My dumbass would have been standing there too. 100%. Tragedy TCC host finally goes down.
Or you get to keep the fork if you get hit by it, I assume. So.
Yeah, I mean, hey, there's 5 baseball teams in California. Hopefully,
Yeah.
fans will bring their gloves to the 2024 event.
That would be
but
a
yes,
funny.
this has
That'd
to
be a funny thing to like actually do. Just like show up to Robo
Bring-
in 2024 with baseball mitts.
Yeah, like, oh, hit it here. Oh my God, gosh. Anyway, but yes, I mean, we've had some pretty big arena breach dilemmas happen internationally. Of course, a lot of people talk about the 2014 IIT Tech Fest before they had a roof. They've improved a lot since then, but talking about American robot combat, we haven't seen something like this since the infamous 2002 Battlebots 5.0 Rumble with Nightmare shooting one of them teeth right through the arena ceiling against Spitfire there. I mean, this is a lot to take in. I kind of feel for RoboGames a little bit for them taking such heavy fire, but you got to do better. I mean, we know RoboGames can provide a sturdy arena. This event has been going on since 2004, and we've never seen of this caliber outside of a couple incidents that required portions of the arena to be fixed. Another thing me and Pory were talking about, Duck versus Toro Maximus 2017, that required a panel to get swifted out. And, people in the chat and after the event at RoboGames, they were upset. They were pretty livid. So I'm asking you guys, what can these guys do to bounce back? Besides the obvious stuff, I guess we can all say, oh, the arena's got to get sturdier. What can they do to bounce back for a better event, safer event in 2024, assuming one thing can happen? Assuming one happens.
Yeah. Okay, so the first big thing is something that I didn't see the entire weekend is accepting accountability for this happening and just owning up to the fact that maybe they didn't build, because when this happened, like pretty much every time someone mentioned this breach in the Twitch chat, a moderator would delete the message. They were pretending like it didn't happen, and then you got the Logan Paul apology from the one mod being like, this is being looked at, we'll take care of it. Like, it's just they gotta for one thing, honestly, as much as the fights were fun, they probably should have ended the event for spinners after that happened, because that's dangerous. But 45 minutes after it happened, they threw Mad Catter and Malice in there, so clearly
they really did. It was literally
that was literally the next
fight.
Yeah, and then later on, Manta again doing its thing fought Malice, and it knocked a chunk of Malice into the ceiling and broke it, and it didn't go through, but it the one layer was clearly dangling down, and that when that happened, they cut the feed again, and we're gonna try to
cut the feed,
yeah, they cut the feed, and then a minute later they just resumed the fight. I don't even think they fixed it during that. I think they were just like, okay, and then Manta proceeds to hit White Rabbit into a wall, and you could see the arena visibly jiggling as a result.
Yeah, that it was certainly intense. I feel like one thing that people brought up was tip speed on the Twitch channels, the Twitch chats. I feel like tip speed has not really been the issue in the past. I mean,
I don't know
I feel
if
like
I
this
buy
just
that.
comes to arena structure.
Yeah, because a lot of people were saying that because technically RoboGames does not have a tip speed, but I feel like somebody who stemmed off of Team Malice and is sponsored by Team Malice and is probably mentored by someone who's as knowledgeable as Bunny probably isn't going over the tip speed. He probably knows better, I would assume.
Yeah,
and that could be wrong, but
that's
what I'm guessing. Yeah,
too drastic. Absolutely, nothing over 250 miles per hour. But we've had people saying, 100 miles per hour. I was like, what the fuck? Excuse me there, my words, but this is in 2006, people. We ain't doing that. I think the biggest compromise, if it does end up coming down to we can't make the arena any better, it's got to be a tip speed thing, is follow what Extreme Robots is doing with their, what is it, 3/4 of the weapon speed we see in Battlebots. Yeah. Still some pretty destructive fights. Look at what Zagkill and Aftershock have been doing over there all last year, likely all this year. You can still have some good fights, especially with horizontal spinners like Tombstone and Malice in the future. But it is definitely a worrying thing. You're definitely right. RoboGames did not take too much accountability for it. They tackled it very
under the rug.
Just tackled it so oddly. It was very bizarre. if they do decide to go next year, and I hope they do. I know some people won't like me saying that, but I hope they do because RoboGames has been around forever. And I mean, we wouldn't have names like Stinger to Killer Bee and Tombstone and Minotaur if it wasn't for what RoboGames and the path and the legacy they were able to build for robots in Battlebots' absence for a decade and a half there. So, I mean, RoboGames is essential for the sport, but the robot combat evolves so quickly. Just going, 2 years apart. We see it with Death Roll this year. They didn't really work on the robots since 2020, and it's suffered a little bit of some hurdles along the way so far this season. Still looking good, but taking some hurdles. RoboGames hasn't fought. I mean, RoboGames ain't fighting. Hosts might be fighting people at this rate. I don't know, but the RoboGames event has an event since 2018. Obviously, it is a new arena, but standards go up very quickly. Weapon power is insane. I mean, Riptide, Manta, of course. We'll be talking a lot more about Manta here later on in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It's gone up. The ante has gone up. We have robots like Lucky and Hexadecimator and Hydra, who wasn't even there. I would love to see that one day. Spiking robots into a much, much lower ceiling. That's got to be factored in, too. The RoboGames ceiling is a lot lower than the Battlebox ceiling. Is that just me?
It is lower, but like another thing is, wasn't the ceiling made with like cheaper Lexan than the actual walls or something? I thought I heard that somewhere, but I might be wrong on that.
It wouldn't surprise me. I know they were really gassing up them walls, and those walls certainly held up, having robots like Crash and Burn and Hexadecimator and Cataclysm get thrown into them all events.
Malice didn't go through it when it got chucked into it by Manta, so I guess they're doing something right.
Yeah. I mean, it could take big impacts. It took Lucky, and it took other heavy robots directly into the ceiling. It just couldn't take a piercing strike with any... It could have been any piercing weapon to go through that ceiling thing. It was only a matter of time, and we're lucky. I mean, lucky isn't the right word for it, but we're fortunate it didn't happen earlier in the event because it certainly could have.
Yeah, and thankfully no one got hurt. That's the big thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I think RoboGames needs to look at I don't think they need to become an annual event. I think it's too stressful and David Calkins. I think they should really take a look at how events like the World Baseball Classic or the Olympics do it. Maybe every other year, maybe every 3 years, because that's going to make RoboGames feel more significant when it comes around.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it felt really significant this time with the 5-year gap, but year to year, especially with, the controversy that's going to be built behind it for 2024, if they go ahead and try to do it, we're probably not going to see many robots entering it as we usually do, maybe not as many people. And that would suck for, the non-combat people, these humanoid robots, the sumo robots, the bot hockey teams.
Yeah.
They ain't involved in this, and they're half of the event too, so... I wouldn't mind seeing RoboGames try to become more of a ceremonious thing every 2 years, every 3 years, but it's all up to David Calkins. I'm shocked that dude has any hair left after this.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I mostly just agree with what Pory said. Their lack of accountability being held for this was pretty astounding, how little they cared about this at all, really. I mean, I feel like
Manta was in the chat too, so.
Yeah, I feel like it wouldn't be very hard to just... Because, I mean, the walls held up really well, right? There was tons of shrapnel flying into the walls.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're having memes about the walls all event.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't imagine... And I know there's, physics and all that, but I can't imagine it's very hard to just take the same safety setup you have for the wall and kind of, just place it on top. Because they clearly did something different from the top that they did on the wall, because it was a totally different story when shrapnel hit the wall and shrapnel hit the ceiling. It seems like a very easy fix, but the lack of accountability was pretty sad to see. And as long as they get it fixed, I hate the people that are like, oh my God, cancel RoboGames, guys. I hate that.
Yeah, it's not good for the sport.
No, I totally agree. It's not good for the sport. I'd much rather them just get their stuff together, fix what they need to fix, and then come back and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
100%. So, I mean, get whatever you build a wall with, get whatever you built the plexiglass walls with, just stick it all up on the arena ceiling. Maybe take a year off, maybe make RoboGames an every other year thing. we still want to see this event happen. And speaking of the event, now we'll go ahead and get to the fun stuff to talk about here, the results, the storylines of RoboGames itself. And just briskly going through the small classes here, because trying to get footage of the small event and knowing who's fighting where was very tricky, especially in the earlier days with the Malice and Scorpius streams. Low frame rate wasn't really their fault. They were doing what they can, and we appreciate them for it. But we do have some results here for those weight classes. In the smallest class of the event, the ferryweight class, 150 grams, Team Bot Bash's Party Bot Dust Bunny pulled off the victory here. In the 1 pound class, a new 2-wheel drive drum bot by the name of Shook won this division. And then in the ever popular 3 pound beat-weight division, we tried to cover this a little bit, but like I mentioned, it was very hard. Doesn't matter anyway. Lynx, as we all expected, driven by the phenomenal Calvin Eva, probably easy to say, best beetleweight in the world right now, won this championship. It's its first beetleweight championship of 2023, likely first of many. But before we get to the big arena stuff, shoutouts to our boy Wormhole, like we mentioned on some TCC news before RoboGames. They took over for Blackbird and Shredded Bro last minute in the RoboGames 3 pound bracket. They represented them, they represented RRML, they represented us very well. Did some big damage to both robots and arena. Took on Mundo Bizarro at one point, had some decent fights. I believe they went 2-2, 3-2 overall. Shoutouts to Wormhole. Definitely, they've bounced back from the fight that a lot of people know them for, that mixtape fight at NHRL in July. It's good to see them do that. But now, lightweight class. We'll go lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight. We won't take too much time on this one here, guys. But here we go. Lightweight events, obviously. You know, we'll get to our champion. We'll get to our top 2 here in a second. But the story of this lightweight event is simple. 7 robots, but one word. Cornholio, baby. I am so happy about this. Oh my god, all of us old heads, me and Pory, who have been watching Battlebots for years, laughing at this robot. I was in the chat with Gatorbox, Robots Update, who makes more mockery out of Team Wetware, Team Artifice, out of anybody. He's the one that made a meme out of it. I got the chance to see this live with him, or at least live on Twitch, and oh my god, what a thing to witness. Just them beating Kickflip from Team Valkyrie, which obviously wasn't working too well, would have been a story in itself. That was, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. If you're a new head and you don't know about Team Wetware somehow, this is a team that has been around literally for almost 25 years, and they are one of the most infamous teams for forfeits, pullouts, dropouts, last second. Oh, we're in the arena, but now we got to take it out situations with robots such as Abattoir or, Mr. Bone Stripper, or for the recent fans out there, Clockwork LaRonge, if you remember that robot in 2016. But oh my god, after 25 years, the team finally figured it out here. The mighty Cornholio went 2-2, placing 3rd in this event, knocking out Kickflip, like I mentioned, knocked out Twister, another old school robot in the process, pretty much retiring that robot for its career. We saw a decade plus old shell get shattered in that fight. This was Team Wetware's best tournament run in their 25-year history. And I know you guys were just as excited as I was. We were spamming the corn in the chats, in the Discords, on Reddit, everywhere. What were y'all's thoughts? This was just good fun. The lightweight division needed something like this in their big return to the U.S.
Yeah, man. I was really excited to see this. As I saw, I'm a pretty big shell spinner fan myself. They've always piqued my interest. So seeing Cornholio, a robot that I know was notorious for pulling out and getting a shell taken off and reappear these RoboGames, it was really entertaining to see it go as far as it did, especially beating some actually decent opponents. I was definitely not expecting it to do as well as it did against I believe, what was it? It was Corner, but it was, what was it called during this event?
Twister.
Twister, yeah, that's it.
The original Rambot, yeah.
Yeah, seeing it beat that, especially in the method that it did, cracking the shell, was like, whoa, maybe what happened? What did you guys do with Cornholio? I mean, this was very impressive. It actually, I know its fight against the General didn't last, or is it? Oh no, wait, is it General or is it?
Federal
MaxQ was a bit of a one-sided one, but yeah, I know what you mean now. Yeah, it was Federal MT.
Yeah,
you're
Federal
on the
MT.
You're in the ballpark.
Yeah, Federal MT. It actually had some decent hits in. It lasted
Yeah.
longer than I thought. I thought it was going to have something
Same.
horribly wrong happen to it that wasn't just it getting flipped over. And even if the fight was very short, it was pretty impressive from what I expected first. So it was good to see them do very well. I love to see a shell spinner, in this armor tough modern day and
Absolutely.
age do as well as it did, and I was very excited.
Definitely agree. Team Wetware, now known as Team Artifice, is like a team that I've always kind of looked at in awe over the years. Like looking through like the Team Nightmare event reports,
It's
like seeing like
folklore.
it's folklore. Yeah, it's like all these like goofy robots that like 9 times out of 10 forfeited. Like you look back on it, like he competed in all the OG seasons with Abattoir, Mr. Bone Stripper, Riptide.
Right.
Like he competed with all these like robots, and like out of like I believe that their record for the Comedy Central era is like 1-12, something like that. Abattoir never won a
was
fight.
bad.
Mr. Bone Stripper won 1 fight and it lost like 6 fights. They like their collective record was not good, and that didn't translate well to the live event scene either. Like there's like a video out there of like Avatar getting destroyed by Tortoise, the shell spinner from the Comedy Central era, and then like there's videos of like Cornholio getting its like shell ripped off, and they just didn't seem to do it. And I think this might be the first time that their team has actually placed on a podium at a Robot Combat event. And I love to see it, especially almost 25 years later.
It's such a crazy long time coming. You got to give MVP obviously Ray Skull is the MVP of this squad, but I got to give a quick shout out to a Mediator from the Canadian contingent coming in the RoboGames. He brought me a little bit of info for these RoboGames season coming in, but he also helped Ray Scully for about 3 to 4 hours. He said this in the Gatorbox chat. Entering that first fight against Kickflip, trying to get that robot working. So we may have not had this crazy run without our Canadian friend Mediator. Shout outs to him, and shout outs to Boyan, who we won't really be talking about too much when we talk heavyweights, but it's a task to take on a heavyweight. It doesn't matter if it's a silver box with wheels on it. A heavyweight's a heavyweight. And
hey, I love the throwback to Kilo Amp. I don't even care.
Yeah, it's so sick. It was just fun to see the variety of heavyweight designs.
They almost beat Doom. It was close.
It was. They almost beat Doom. I was just glad to see a heavyweight rumble again. Battlebots is done with them. We're still going by the time-honored tradition of mid-robots in the rumble, unfortunately. But that was good fun. Chaos was in there, too.
Yeah.
But yes, talking about our top 2, though, the 2 robots mighty enough to beat the mighty Cornholio. MaxQ impressed in its 60-pound debut. Very classic 2000s era lightweight vibes. You think about the Patriot or Wireless Wonder from Battlebots. But like many robots in the past, it fell short to Uriah's Federal MT. Once again, our 60-pound champion, Federal MT, breaks the silver, gold streak. People thought, maybe it's going to get silver this year to keep up with the streak. MaxQ definitely provided a challenge. But nope, Federal MT, after a career now 11 years old, finally wins 2 events in a row here. Undefeated run at RoboGames. Only had issues in the first fight with Bad Dog. But yeah, what a run here by Federal MT. Uriah, obviously, a dominant force in robot combat, and likely will be for many years to come.
You just call it Uriah?
I know it's pronounced Warrior. Okay, actually, yeah. I had a Brazilian correct me finally. I was like, what do you mean? I've been saying this wrong for a year.
Warrior, dude. No, I pronounced it wrong at first too.
Wait, it's just Warrior?
Yeah, it's just Warrior.
Yeah, it's just
Dude,
Warrior.
Really?
Okay,
What the fuck?
I'm glad I'm not the last on the bus to this. I've been saying Uriah for like 2 years now.
Okay, well, I was in the wrong too, because I surely didn't.
No, I was at first.
Fair enough.
I think I heard someone say it like after they made a deep run in their first BattleBots season or something.
Oh, okay, well, fair enough. I didn't know, yeah.
I mean, they do spell it. They do spell it weird, so I mean, it's a logical mistake to make,
I mean, they say general and federal weird. They say general, federal. We can't say Uriah. Come on now. It's all good.
Bro.
It's all good. Speaking of General, let's hop over to the middleweight class here. Only 8 robots making up this field, but some seriously stiff competition in this small field. We got robots like BMF, the rebuilt version of Team Yeti's signature middleweight Stewart, Cat Kong, Team Bad Kitty's own signature middleweight, Mortician, the mini version of Tombstone and Last Rites, Who's Your Daddy Now, another mini version of the heavyweight, a small version of Raging Scotsman, Copyright Infringement, a brand new robot in the field, and as the name implied, took full inspiration from the original 120-pound Toro from Riobots, comes from a college which focused on students with dyslexia, and is a regular school for RoboGames competitions. But finally, and this is going to be our first big topic here for the 120-pound middleweight class, General, who was my pick to win the division, the defending middleweight champion, going back to RoboGames 2018. Big shock here. Ended up going 0-2.
I was surprised.
And General's, yeah, this was maybe the surprise of the tournament right here. You know, after dominance in the middleweight class, Federal MT was back and forth. General has pretty much been unrivaled. Lost via a knockout in a massive upset against Copyright Infringement in round 1. And then later on during day 2, end of day 2, might have been one of the last fights, if I remember correctly, lost a very, very controversial judge's decision against Who's Your Daddy Now in losers round 1. Not the most heinous judge's decision of the event. I think that was Emperor Puck. But in my opinion, General should have won that fight. RoboGames very much known for their almost anti-Battlebots judging. They love their control bots. They love their wedges. What did you think about General going out so early, y'all? Bit of a surprise.
I was surprised. I was definitely surprised by that. I mean, I was expecting them to be a contender to win the whole thing, and I felt that way about Federal MT too, and I was right about that. But yeah, I mean, I was expecting them to win it all, but RoboGames judging criteria is built different, so you know how it is.
Yeah, each event's always different. I think British judging meets a good middle ground, but yeah, you gotta know what you're getting ahead of yourself with when it comes to RoboGames judging.
Yeah,
It just be like that sometime. What are you thinking about, Mantine? What do you got?
I would like to say that in the stream chat, I bet all of my points on Federal MT when it fought. In that fight, and I was livid. Like, I was sending some interesting. I was saying some things about David Calkins that I probably can't repeat on air, but I was very surprised. After seeing Federal MT do so well, seeing General get kind of rinsed twice in a row was a real surprise. I figured their success would directly translate up, and it didn't. And while Federal MT had its fair share of struggles, it pretty convincingly took its spot at the top of the lightweight category. But the middleweights it wasn't the same. That really surprised me. I was glad to see Stewie back. I was kind of sad that they didn't use the big drum. That was a bit of a I missed the big drum. The big drum was awesome.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a. It was still good to see them come here and do very well, though, and big ups to copyright infringement, man. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love the name because it's like a reference to King of the Hill. It's one of my favorite cartoons, so that was always appreciated.
Fair. Yeah, I was.
King of the Hill, man.
I didn't expect what was it? Copyright infringement to do as well as it did, because I
had low hopes for it.
Yeah, no offense to the team. I've never heard of the team, so I was just kind of like, I don't know what to expect from these guys, and they showed up, man, and they really took it to a lot of big competitors. Yeah, that was very good to see a team that I didn't know very well do so well. So yeah, it was cool to see.
Very solid, very sturdy, very beautiful robot. And that brings me to my next question for you guys. Let's talk about the top 3 of this event. Of course, we got in 3rd place Cat Kong, riding off with some insane weapon power and Martin Mason's energy pretty much the entire event. Its highlight was a 12-second knockout victory against BMF early on in the tournament. But BMF would also be the robot to end Cat Kong's run with a late comeback in their losers finals matchup. BMF, speaking of that robot, meanwhile, James Arluck and Christian Carlberg captaining this robot at this event. No Greg Gibson, sadly, but Team Yeti still being represented. Team managed to avenge both of their losses to Mad Catter and Tombstone at Battlebots. They picked up the only out of the arena of the entire event against Mortician. Looked very good. But our champion from from awesome school, a brand spanking new robot, and like what you guys were saying, it looked beautiful, but I mean, they've had some success in the past, but they've never been a champion. They took it all the way here without a single loss. Very impressive. 4-0 in a decently loaded, compact field. So, guys, between Cat Kong, BMF, and copyright infringement, what out of these three, what do y'all think is the biggest story coming out of this event?
Probably copyright infringement, I'd have to say. I
thinking
mean,
so, too.
I'd have to agree. Yeah, totally.
It's always big when an unknown bot does super well.
Yeah, no, I mean, seeing a robot that I hadn't previously heard of a lot is seeing it beat some very popular names that were, heavy favorites coming into this was like, it was kind of a bit of a shock. It definitely provided some entertainment value. So I'd have to say, really interested to see what they, get on to next and how they end up doing later in the when we see more events like this, to see if they come back and maybe even build a heavyweight or something. I don't know. I'm interested to see what that team does in general later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, we know the Battlebots team, or at least some of the Battlebots team, were present at RoboGames, scouting the competition. If you want to get your step in the door at Battlebots and turn their heads, Battlebots love their school teams, and hey, you got a good drum bot, and as we'll see in the heavyweight class, which we'll talk about here in a second, if you want to get a drum bot into Battlebots, you got to build some reputation first, and this is how you get started right here.
Oh, yeah.
Shout outs to copyright infringement. I wish I knew the school's name. It's not on the top of my head. I'll have it probably in the graphic below, but it is what it is for anyone watching this on the YouTube video. But yes, but we all came for the heavyweight division. Before we get to our Battlebots episode discussion for week 13, talking about this 20 robot class, they still put on a hell of a show even after the arena drama and all the pullouts. Still plenty of amazing fights. Probably Terratops Malice, my favorite fight at RoboGames.
That fight was great.
And we even amazing fight. Big hits by Terratops. Big hits. Yeah, big hits by both robots. Malice mainly. Terratops managing the suplex late into the fight, tracking Malice around. Great fight. And speaking of Terratops, yeah, we got to see some Battlebots alternates like Doom and Terratops in action. We also got to see some brand new robots like the Emperor and Chaos 3, who, even if they didn't perform well, definitely caught the eye of Battlebots probably a little bit. Caught the eye of the fans, especially for the Emperor, a first-time robot combat team coming from a college in Ohio. Beautiful design of a robot. That robot looked amazing. They should have won the fight against Puck. Frustrated by that. Our first story to talk about here, though, in the middleweight class, forgot to mention this, Justin Billings drove Mortician. Still not impressed with Justin Billings driving, I have to say. But Stink Eye made its long-awaited debut in Robot Combat. It's been on the heavyweight sign-up since we heard about RoboGames coming back. And this was Ray Billings' first time driving in an event since Battlebots 2021. Stink Eye would go 2-2, falling to some minor drive mistakes and ground game woes. But Ray Billings' highlight through this week is probably the long-awaited battle against Rick Russ with Swamp Thing. We finally got to see it go down. I had my popcorn ready, but it was a bit of a blue ball, I have to say, unfortunately. Swamp Thing sadly just could not get working for this event. They had this new beak thing on the front, which probably could have worked good for ground game. I mean, it certainly got under the arena a lot, and that really ended up being a catalyst for their defeat here. It got caught under the arena wall in both of their fights, had weapon problems all event too. Ended up losing to Ray Billings in the loser's bracket and went 0-2 overall at RoboGames. Rick Russ had to be frustrated, but talking about Stink Eye and Ray Billings here, I mean, they looked good in their wins, but they were also having some serious ground game issues, some wedge steepness issues in the latter half of the tournament. What are y'all thinking about Ray Billings coming back, Stink Eye, and the future for this robot? Could we see this robot at Battlebots, or do you think this is going to be Ray Billings' little one-off project here?
Yeah, there's no question. I don't think Stink Eye is ever going to come to BattleBots. It's just like a fun little thing. I mean, it might come back to RoboGames maybe, but he said when he lost his first fight, he was just like, "Yeah, I'm just here to have fun. I don't really care." Like, it's just like a fun little side project to do, experiment with a vert. And I thought it was a shit post at first when he posted like pictures of it. I thought he was joking about taking like a Tombstone chassis and adding a vert to it, but apparently the Mad Lad actually did it, which is honestly kind of funny. But yeah, I think assuming he returns next year, I think we're just going to see Tombstone again, because that just makes the most sense.
Yeah, I have to agree. I didn't see it when it first came out. I did kind of think this was just sort of like he was like doing a little Paul Ventimiglia trolling, but
that's what I thought. Yeah.
He actually made it, and I was like, wow. The ground game, I feel, definitely left some to be desired. I feel like that's kind of one of the big indicators that he wasn't really particularly trying with this. He just kind of had a spare Tombstone chassis you want to throw in, and it didn't do horribly. I mean, it definitely put up some good fights. Unfortunately, the vert didn't really get a whole lot of action just because of how poor the ground game was. I mean, they were struggling getting under anything. Even with the forks immediately got bent up and weren't able to do anything. It was a bit sad to see, but I don't think he's taking it very much to heart. I feel like he's
having fun.
Yeah, with Battlebots, he'll be back with Tombstone, and hopefully they can get Tombstone figured out, because I know they've been struggling with that for a little bit. Third to the increase of armor and just have the reliability of robots going so far up, and I think they'll come back with Tombstone, hopefully a much improved Tombstone, because the Tombstone that we've seen the last couple seasons has, I feel, left a little to be desired. But we'll see if they can get past the improved reliability and wedges and all that we've seen in BattleBots these past couple years.
For sure. Justin and Ray getting a little bit of stick time before BattleBots, likely happening around July, August. Definitely a good thing for them. Can't wait to hopefully see them at BattleBots. But it just doesn't feel like BattleBots without them. It's been a phenomenal season without them. Don't get it twisted, but it's like not having Nightmare in the Comedy Central era. We got to have them back. But yes, so we got some old guy teams, some of them succeeding like Hardcore Robotics, some of them not thriving like Team Swamp Thing. But one old guy team certainly whooped ass, in my opinion.
Whoop ass.
Yes.
Baby.
Oh, man. In my opinion, the story of this RoboGames is easily the miracle run of the 23-year-old Hexadecimator, Hexadee, baby. It pulled off an easy knockout win versus Puck on day one. It could have been a one-hit KO if they wanted it to be, but they decided to play with their food a little bit. Followed it up with a KO to Doom early on in day two. Caused a battery fire to the Battlebots alternate. Followed it up with yet another internal fire to Manta, our eventual RoboGames 250-pound champion. And at this point, entering day three, Hexadecimator Hexadee was 3-0, a 23-year-old robot having its best performance since Battlebots 4.0. Of course, at this point, you're going to take on the big-ass heavyweights, the big-time weapons, the top-tier robots, even at Battlebots. And yeah, we saw Hexadee suffer a valiant KO, but a brutal KO versus Malice, and then fell fairly easily in day four during a 2018 rematch versus Lucky. So the 3-2 record on paper, if you don't follow the run, doesn't look that impressive. But if you're watching day one and day two of this event live, oh my God, this was something euphoric to see, especially for us old heads who watched Hexadee fight on Comedy Central on VHS, talking out machines like Sharkbite, like Frisbee, like Forkenstein back in the day. Hexadee was an absolutely awesome machine. An incredible run here from Team Whoopass, even still using the old school joystick to control the robot. My favorite story to follow at this event, like I said, besides Team Wetwares, just get some quick thoughts on Hexadee. Let's gush about this robot a little bit, because oh my God, is this good enough? Am I crazy enough to say that if this team tried applying to BattleBots, maybe, just maybe, they might get in, because this was pretty crazy. This was pretty nutty. I had a lot of fun during this. Maybe I'm getting too wishful with that, but I want to see it.
I would be mighty surprised if they let Hexadee.
Yeah.
It's true. I get it. I get it. It's a silver box.
But I agree with you. I would love to see it. I don't know if their casual fans probably wouldn't understand, but for us people who are more deep into the BattleBots, lore and watching the older seasons, and we know what we're thinking and talking about. I mean, I think all of us would absolutely love to see Hexadee. I'd like to. I mean, I don't know all the financial deals of Team Whoop Ass, but I'd love to see a new Hexadee or something like that. I always love, and I always hope every year for some old robot, some old Comedy Central robot like Top 16 robot just comes out of the woodworks with some new version of. I mean, we hear about it in the rumor mills all the time. Every year there's something about Carlo Bertocchini and people like that. I would love.
Yeah, Jonathan Ritter last year was a big one.
Yeah, and I'd absolutely love to see a new Hexadee, man. That would make my BattleBots for sure, especially seeing it do. Yeah. We already don't have enough flippers in BattleBots, but seeing something like Hexadee would truly be a treat.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it being a 23-year-old robot, but I think it definitely made some improvements power-wise and drive-wise since we last saw it at RoboGames 2017 and 18. Because they were definitely more of a nostalgic pick, a field filler during those events. Really didn't do much at all. In fact, they went 1-2, 0-2. This was just a great run to see them. But yes, before we move on to BattleBots, let's talk about the top 4 here. And picking what's the best story, talking about these top 4. Running over these robots. After placing top 4 at RoboGames 2018, Lucky made it back-to-back Final 4 placements here inside the RoboGames arena. They brought Matt Olson over for this event, and Lucky managed to defeat the lights of Hexadee, defending champion Original Sin, and even Whiplash twice en route to a stellar finish. Third place probably could have been higher. Definitely felt like they performed higher than third place. Will be the White Rabbit of Malice. Comparing this to the Malice we first saw at the start of Battlebots 2022 versus Lockjaw, to the Malice we see here versus the likes of Lucky and Original Sin, it's night and day. This team has grinded and grinded this year through the BattleBots season, likely through Champions, through Destructathon, now here to RoboGames, and we might have a new best horizontal spinner in the sport. This was easily one of at least the most destructive robots we saw at RoboGames. Watch out for them in the top 16. Second place, of course, Calvin Eva, Martin Mason, and Mad Catter. Just another consistent and strong performance from Team Bad Kitty, who also placed top 3 in the middleweight class, of course. This is their highest known placement across 7 events, which they have competed in since late 2021 with Mad Catter. This has been one of the most active American robot in terms of heavyweight action right now. Shouts to them in second place. But of course, the brand new Manta, formerly known as Drago, taking first place here at RoboGames, uncrowning Original Sin. Wish we could have seen that fight happen. It was a sleek 4-wheel drive drum bot. We talked about it during our first applicant rundown. Shades of Tsunami Light, the team's lightweight. Wish we could have seen it compete. This robot pretty much obliterated every machine in its way, from Big Dill to Terratops to Lucky to Stink Eye to even the RoboGames Arena. I mean, even the one robot it lost to, Hexadecimator, it was kicking its ass until it had that big, crazy internal fire. We had a bit of cooked Manta during that fight, but still, it's apparently a great month to be a Ray-based sports team. The Devil Rays are 12-0, Manta 6-1, losing to only Hexadecimator, taking the gold medal here at RoboGames. So, guys, out of Manta, Lucky, Mad Catter, and Malice, who's the biggest story out of these 4 breakout robots at RoboGames?
Gotta be Manta, man. Absolutely. I mean, this is the first, I think, what is this? Is this their first heavyweight robot, I think I heard?
First heavyweight. They've made some other big robots in the lightweight class, but this is the first time they've gone full on with the pro class.
I know, I think they also built Noisy Boy for an HRL, right? This is pretty much just a scaled up Noisy Boy, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Team Tanto, this is like their signature. From literally the 150 gram class, they will make a 4-wheel drive drum bot built like this.
I mean, this thing, it absolutely slapped the robots around. It was doing a number on everything it faced. I think it's really funny. Just the to hear that Manta beat all of these BattleBots, like really competitor champion tier competitors like Malice and Mad Catter and Big Dit. Well, all these really good BattleBots competitors. Then you ask what its one loss is. Hexadecimator. I thought
And that's why you need to bring it.
yeah, man. That's just hearing that, just the
Great
concept of that is
statistic.
really funny to me. But I mean, it was other than the fire it suffered against Hexadee. I mean, it had really good ground game. It hit like a truck. This is absolutely a shoe-in for the next season of BattleBots. I'd be shocked if it didn't get in.
If there's one newcomer lock, it's this.
It gotta be
for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, it absolutely gave that. This was them saying, "Hey, BattleBots, we're here. Like, you pick us next season. We got you." and I'd be surprised if they didn't pick them up because I mean, man, they were brutal. The robot looks good. That was an unfinished one too. Imagine what we get to see when we get the full Manta theming.
Get some stipping in there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Get the livery on there. I mean, that's going to be a beautiful robot, form and function. I'm so excited to see Manta. It's going to quickly become a favorite of mine, I think, because it was very impressive.
Absolutely. I mean, we usually don't talk about rookies. I mean, even with the hype behind them, sometimes we usually don't talk about rookies at BattleBots being, top 8 contenders, but everyone's going to be putting Manta in their top 8, even top 4 predictions come BattleBots 2023 World Championship 8, whatever you want to call it. And speaking of BattleBots, of course, congratulations to Manta, copyright infringement, Federal MT, and all of our small bots winners. It was a great RoboGames, absolutely fantastic, but now let's talk about BattleBots. So our first bit of action for BattleBots Week 13, Round 4 fight, our second Round 4 fight of the regular season as we now wrap up all these robot schedules, see where they place in the big Round of 32 playoff picture. It was Quantum versus Emulsifier, 2 robots definitely on the opposite end of the spectrum. Quantum 3-0, trying to become the first 4-0. Emulsifier fighting to stay alive. Emulsifier ditched both the wedge and forks for this one, instead going all weapon with a set of 2 unique anti-crusher vertical bars up front. Quantum, meanwhile, brings out the anti-horizontal spinner wedge with 2 big teeth up front on the crushing system. Didn't last too long. Both teeth came off of Quantum within less than a minute into the fight, but not before Quantum could pierce into Emulsifier's left tread, cause some mobility issues for it for most of the fight. Even though we did see the Quantum's main teeth get ripped off pretty quickly into the match, the small teeth on Quantum, which most people never ever really think about, end up being the MVP here. Quantum managed to gum away and show that these tiny little teeth can still bite and exhibit full control of a robot. Still plenty of control exhibited on Emulsifier. In fact, we've been keeping a tally from fight to fight here. In this fight, maybe it's the longest, Quantum spent a total of 44 combined seconds controlling Emulsifier with full bite, driving it around the arena, almost 1/3 of a full 3-minute fight. Emulsifier will end up losing drive just over halfway into the fight, and this team, Bots FC, desperate to sneak into the playoffs with at least one of their robots running literally all around the battle box to keep the signal alive. Big time shades of NHRL there. They managed to break 110 count with 3 seconds left to go. Got high centers shortly after, but miraculously, Emulsifier does manage to survive the 3 minutes. Great fight to open up the competition, and Quantum wins a JD here to become the first BattleBots competitor to secure a perfect season. A massive return. First event since 2019, showed that the Spectre Quantum line is still very much elite. UK is still very much elite. Crushers can still play in this game. And me and Mantine were talking about this the other day. This team may have not even have done much to Quantum from 2019 to 2022. What was it that you were exactly saying? That the team, like, they were just going to see what happened with this event and work from there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard I can't remember where I heard this. I'm pretty sure it was on a podcast of some kind. That the Quantum team, like, they hadn't done any of the big changes that they were going to do to Quantum, and instead entered it this season almost entirely unchanged to see how it would perform. And I mean, that's going pretty well thus far, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe we underrated the changes made from Battlebots 2019 and King of Bots too. But I feel like we're seeing Quantum survive some impacts it certainly did not survive in 2019. I'm still very impressed with how they performed. I love Robo Challenge. This robot keeps the spirit of Razor alive. You love to see it. Emulsifier, though, meanwhile, puts on yet another best bout level performance. Fitting for the opener, but sadly, Emulsifier does finish with a week 1-3 season. Its only win being against a fellow rookie robot in Banshee. They're probably out. But overall thoughts about this fight, guys?
This fight made me so happy because I mean,
It was just so good.
it was great. It was, I mean, this was classic. Quantum it's got its teeth taken off. It definitely did it. I mean, it went straight through that tread. It almost went through like both layers of the tread. Like it was deep in there. It did its damage, crippled Emulsifier with one good grab, and then it just, I mean, it showed what that drive is capable of. And I mean, drive, I feel like the drive system is one of those things that wins championships, man. Like we saw with Tantrum, like we've seen a lot of robots. If you don't have that drive system, you're not going to win much of anything. And Quantum showed that its drive was definitely up to par. Well, the funny thing is, when it bit down with its remaining tooth after it had been sort of dislodged, it kind of just broke off trying to bite something. And then it goes down to gum it, and it just crushes the anti-crusher bar that they put on there while it had no teeth, which I thought was really funny.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just popped it out of there.
Yeah, I mean, Quantum, even if they don't go very far in the bracket, Quantum has just exceeded my expectations. Razor was the robot that got me into the sport, Crushers, and I sort of developed likings for other things like shells because there were no good Crushers in the sport. And seeing Quantum in 2018, it made my heart swell, and seeing it come back this year, especially and just dominate 4-0, it's done wonderful. It is such a wonderful sight to see. I love Quantum and I love Spectre, and seeing them have all this success is such a great. It's a lovely sight to see. It really is.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree. Quantum 4-0 is definitely one of the highlights of this season so far, for sure. You love to see, let alone a non-spinner do this well, but like a crusher, like it's just fantastic. And they've been driving so well. They've been crushing robots left and right. It's a beautiful sight to see, and hopefully they get, super high seed. I think they deserve a top 4 seed at this point. I mean, they're on fire right now. So, we'll have to see. But yeah, it was a fun fight, and I was worried about Quantum because Emulsifier has that really big disc, and the thing can do damage. But Quantum just drove the fight phenomenally, and you'll love to see it.
Yeah, I really hope they come back next year too. I assume they will, but really be a huge loss to see them go away. I really hope they come back.
And we're assuming that Quantum does get a top 4, top 5 seeding here. Who's to say they can't make a top 16, maybe even top 8 with an easier run to the championship with something like that? I would love to see it, but big question before we get to this next fight. Does Emulsifier return for 2023? At 1-3 with the performances it did put up, it likely won't get into the playoffs for this season. But with how other 1-3s have done, yeah, especially probably not. Emulsifier, though, still the defending NHRL 30-pound champ. And while its debut at Battlebots was tough, it did get a sole win over a fellow rookie. Maybe it can still get in. We know that other rookies haven't been performing well. Maybe we should wait until we should see how it does at Champions to say. What are you guys thinking about the verdict for Emulsifier in 2023? Can we see it come back, or is it going to go the way of a retrograded defender?
I think it has a shot at coming back for sure. I think it really, because its first 2 fights, while it didn't win them, they were entertaining. The Banshee fight it won, but like it wasn't a great win.
It was iffy, yeah.
Yeah, but it has put on a fun show at least, and assuming it puts on, I think it needs to put on like another fun showing in Champion, like win a fight or two in Champions in like spectacular fashion, and then I'll be convinced that I want them to come back completely. Because they definitely, when they first got accepted, I definitely was a little hesitant because I was just like, oh, another vert. But their first two fights were very good, so at least there's that. So at least they proved me wrong on that front, you know.
Yeah, I would actually really like to see Emulsifier come back. I prefer that to their main bot Shatter. I get that it's just another vert, but I think it's probably a lot more than that in my eyes. I feel like
It's a big vert.
yeah,
It's a bigger vert. It's got the treads. That makes it stand
I
out.
mean, I have never seen anything go through like in that Malice fight. Yeah, it lost, but I mean that thing was doing damage, man. It's been a while since I've seen a vert that hit as hard as Emulsifier did, and plus the treads are cool. If they get the the tread unreliability fixed, I think this could be a competitor. You know, I feel like we could be looking at another competitor here. They need to get a better like wedgeless config that allows for more engagement. They struggle with that this season, but if they get a better config, that'll be good. They have the wedge. It held up to fusion pretty well despite all the damage it took. I really like Emulsifier, and I think it'd be a real shame if they didn't come back for another season because I think it's I think it's got a lot more potential than Shadow does, and frankly, I like the look of it, and I like a lot about it. It's actually
it's a cool bot, yeah.
I was right with you, man. I was like, another vert, but it hits hard when it hits, and I feel like it's got a lot of potential.
Puts on a good show. Yeah, it puts on a good show,
absolutely.
and I mean, who knows what William Shatner's going to do to it in the offseason?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I was about to say, yeah. I mean, they're now 2-4 right now combined. Seems like a big time to sell the Team Shatner LLC.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we get more developments about that transaction in the future. But yes, I think we should now move on to our second fight. This is going to be a very interesting one to talk about. It was certainly a fun one to watch. Endgame versus Gigabyte. Ew, there's a stutter. Finally got one. Endgame versus Gigabyte. Two robots which really made their mark in 2020. One of them, of course, won Battlebots 2020. The other one set the Battlebots record for most KOs in 2020 with 7. Bit different now. Gigabyte on the back foot. Endgame marching forward here. Endgame would bring out their signature look that we'd see in their team picture. Big anti-horizontal spinner plow and the asymmetrical disc. Gigabyte, in that aforementioned tough 1 and 2 position, was bringing out the attachments and the stops here. Lower level Shremek pull was set on, and as well was the rarely used feeder directional wedge on Gigabyte. Not that it mattered, because both were ripped off within 10 seconds, and we also had the shot of the fight also come within 10 seconds. Ripped off the top ripped off the top Shremek, ripped off the front wedge, and then Endgame just punts Gigabyte easily 8 feet up, 10 feet forward, maybe even more than that, directly into the arena Lexan, shaking the arena, busting the arena clock. It would be an endgame KO in 42 seconds. Couple strikes after that to flip the now Shremekless Gigabyte over. One of the faster knockout wins this year. And, me and Mantine especially, we've been critical of Derek and Camden's rookie driving this year. But this one was over so fast, we really didn't have the opportunity to judge it. Gigabyte officially out of the playoffs. It's what has to be one of the full body spinners' worst Battlebots years, whether it be under the name Gigabyte or Megabyte. Meanwhile, Endgame likely secures a top 10, maybe even top 8, top 6, top 5 seeding with this performance. What are you guys thinking about this one? I know you, like I mentioned, Mantine, very critical of Gigabyte's new captainship with being such a fan of the team. It makes sense. What are y'all thinking about this one?
Yeah, I've considered myself in the absence of many good crushers into a quantum game around. Gigabyte was definitely my big substitute as a robot that I pulled for, and seeing it do so rather poorly has definitely saddened me a lot. Yeah, I mean, end game, with no offense meant, was a fight that they were almost never going to win, even at their peak performance. End game was
Yeah.
pretty much destined to win that fight. But I was expecting a lot more. I was expecting even a 3-1 this season, but between the rather poor driving and just the change of internals that they have has definitely taken a toll. I'm sure that they'll get all of the internal stuff dialed in within a couple of seasons. We've seen a lot of things like with Whiplash and stuff like that, where brushless changes and just changes to weapons and drives have caused a lot of issues. But I do worry about the driving ability of them. I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure that can be fixed with time, but the question is how much time is that going to take? And if we don't see the return of John Mladnick, which it sounds like we're not going to get, um, I'm not sure what's going to happen to Gigabyte. Though I have heard that they're going to bring back Brent Riker once he.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I also heard that they're talking about bringing back the original Gigabyte designer as well, which would be a fun thing to see.
Yeah, that'd be really neat to see. I'd totally be down for that. But yeah, I mean, this is a very sad sight to see for Gigabyte. I hope they get their driver issues and their just general robot issues figured out. And I'm sure they'll get the robot issues figured out, but I'm more worried about the former.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, and I mean, I can't really get on them. I mean, the driving has been bad. To be honest, it has been. But like, also, I can't get on them too bad because it's like, you pretty much can't practice driving a robot like that unless it's in the box. Because unless you own a battle box yourself, I guess. Like, it's just the same issue. Same issue with Valkyrie. Like, like with Lucy Dew driving. Like, it's just like they're new drivers and like there's no way to safely practice driving that. And driving a big horizontal spinner of any variety is going to be pretty challenging for sure, I'd imagine. But
especially in an arena with an upper deck.
Yeah. So, but that said, I think even if John Mladnick was driving himself, I still think that it would have been a similar outcome.
Oh, this fight, absolutely. I said,
wash. Endgame's endgame.
Yeah, the
endgame's a brutal matchup for them for sure. But yeah, the hits were fun to watch at least.
And it was a lot of fun to watch this one.
Yeah, it was basically what I expected though. When I saw this fight and when they did the fight reveals, I was like, oh yeah, Endgame's gonna sweep that. And this was before I knew that Gigabyte had like the new driving and all that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I feel like with the way these schedules are set up, we were looking at like a 3-0 versus 3-0. I think that's what's in the minds of the schedulers anyway, though, because I mean, Gigabyte's a good horizontal counter. Free shipping's been kind of in previous seasons, and Starchild is Starchild, and Endgame is of course Endgame. So I think in their mind they were sort of expecting a 3-0 versus 3-0.
They were probably wheeling and dealing, thinking like this is gonna be the big main event or something.
But I mean, and that's sort of the curse and the beauty of this scheduling system is that you can't baby robots when they're doing poorly anymore because you make all of their fights at once, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I think that's a really good. I think that's a very good change. I'm glad that they can't give fan favorite robots like any more Rusties or Doombas since they're doing poorly. And I hope this should, barring any, goofy bracket placements, I hope that they'll, I hope that when you go 1-3 or 0-4 or something like that, you do that, you go home, and you get better next year. And I hope we get to see more of that, like, I guess, accountability. Like, you can't just win one fight and get through, or like that. I hope we see more of that.
For sure. But, of course, before we move on to Fight 3, another big question here. Did the youth leadership project for Gigabyte fail? I mean, Gigabyte is an all-time favorite of the sport, one of the last standing legends of the game. Longevity with success has always been their signature thing, whether it be 2003, 2007, 2017, 2020. The robot seems to still be in the mix for at least top 16 level contention. But now we've seen all the top RDC Roboteers go over to the Cobalt side of things, whether it be, the Cobalt guys or John Mladenick or at the time, the guys behind Snoover Snake. But now we're seeing the younger core of Robot Death Company take over Gigabyte, and this seems to be a long-term plan for the team with the veterans now aging. But I mean, Team Gigabyte just felt a lot more like a B team for RDC this season. I'm sure you guys probably feel the same. The team missed some important reps with the RoboGames pullout a few weeks before the event happened. Maybe it's time to look at these teams for 2023 and reshuffle Robot Death Company. What are you guys thinking here?
Totally agree. I mean, this was very
an easy one.
This was very reminiscent of the season where Megabyte went to China and Gigabyte stayed here, and we just saw the B team of Robotic Death Company. This is very reminiscent.
That's a good comparison, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the struggles with big names like Huge and stuff like that. This looked very similar to that, and I can only hope, and you never know, but I can only hope that we see some more big names on the Gigabyte side of RDC next season, because the robot left a lot to be desired this season, man. And of course, they could have a good champions run. Who knows? Because I mean, their driving in the Star Child fight was definitely better. They were improving as time went on, and that's a thing that's going to happen naturally. But if we don't see any improvement next year, then we definitely need to get more names on there. I think you should go ahead and just jump the gun and go ahead and get more names on there anyway. But I fear they're not going to do that.
Start with Brent.
Yeah,
for sure.
Brent definitely. It'll definitely be good to see him back. I know he's been going through a lot, and the team's been trying to support him all they can. So it'll be good to see him back after all he's been through these past.
It would be.
Yeah.
Big time. But now we'll go ahead and move on to Overhaul versus Shredded Bro.
Yeah,
fight number 3. A lot of people were sleeping on this fight.
No
wacky setups here on either end. Both these robots needed a win here at 1 and 2. Team Shredded never made the playoffs or even have had a winning season at Battlebots for what is now the team's 3rd season with a 3rd drumbot design. Team Overhaul, on the meanwhile, entering this fight, was on the cusp of their first Battlebots playoff berth since 2016, 7 years ago. But to get back in, they must win here. Before we talk about this fight, I gotta make note of it. The chick with the sword, big badass robots ready, press the square button thing. She missed the fucking button the first time. I have to make note of it. Anyway, talk about the fight itself. Overhaul dominant in the fight's opening half, looking like Bam Bam from Flintstones with the club just swinging. Shredded Bro up and down, up and down. It was a total of 11 clamping slams from Overhaul to Shredded Bro in the first half of the fight. Overhaul had a collective 29 seconds of clamp time during these slams. But this was a tale of two halves here. The second half of the fight exhibited the most competent bot handling from Team Shredded that we have seen in the past 3 years in the heavyweight class. We saw the drum at its most destructive. We saw the drive suddenly at its most reliable. We saw all this. And the best that Team Shredded has looked at Battlebots in over 700 days here. Overhaul would take some serious damage from both Shredded Bro and the kill saws in the final minute. Kill saws would shred a wheel off Overhaul. Shredded would land 3 huge strikes, all of which flipped Overhaul over. And Overhaul would end up dying in the final 10 seconds, making it to the judges where we would have a split judges decision. And Shredded Bro wins it here. Overhaul snatches defeat from the hands of victory and loses the playoff berth in the final minute of the fight. I know Charles Guan says he does this all for fun, but this had to suck for Equal Zero Designs. Shredded, meanwhile, they may have just snuck into the top 32 here, likely a 28-32 seeding if they make it in. And maybe they save their season for 2023. Maybe we'll see Shredded Bro just one more time. I mean, Ice Wave proved last year that even if you make the playoffs, you're not safe, but we'll have to see. This was a sneaky good fight. One of the best comebacks this season. What are y'all thinking about this one? This was a fun one.
Oh, you know how it is. All season.
Hey, you're finally vindicated, Pory. Yeah.
All season long, everyone was shitting on Shredded Bro. They were like, "Oh no, he's so bad." Well, look at that. They're getting redemption. They're coming back, and you love to see it. I love the robot. I love the team, and it's great to see them stage a comeback like this for sure. And hopefully that makes some people, makes the armchair builders largely, simmer down a little bit.
Okay, well, unlike Pory, I'm sober, so I'll give you a real explanation of what happened here.
Yeah, okay, buddy.
This fight to me just very expertly demonstrated one of the greatest flaws in the judging criteria that I have seen in a while. And while Shreddit Bros last minute 45 seconds ish comeback was very valiant and was very impressive, Overhaul dominated 2/3 of that fight with almost no opposition and then lost it in the last minute. And I feel like that is I feel like it's displayed a very big issue in the judging criteria. I mean, it's good to see Shredder Bro working. That was very impressive. I have never seen any version of Shredder Bro get those kind of hits consistently and keep working. The funny thing about that was Overhaul took off a belt that was conflicting with a different belt and actually did damage that made Shreddit Bro work better, which I thought was really
Yeah.
funny.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, well, should that be negative damage points or like what do you want to call it? But no.
Right? What do you factor that as?
What'd you say?
Oh no, just adding to what you're saying. Like, what do you factor that as? That's funny.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, I guess Shreddit Bro wins, Shreddit Bro wins damage 6 to -1. Good job, guys.
There you go.
But yeah, I think this displayed a very big problem in the judging system. This is a very, very valiant effort from Overhaul. I do understand why Charles didn't throw in the appeal, whether it was to keep it for champions, if that's a factor, or he just conceded. I'd understand that too, just because of how damage biased the system is.
There's also a chance that he could have thrown an appeal out there and they just didn't document it because it got rejected.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Although
That's a good point.
they've made a point of documenting the other appeals, so like the whip, like the
That's
monsoon
fair.
appeal, those ones. But yeah, I mean they both. This was a very Captain Shredder Axe backwards X fight where two consistent underperformers put on a very good show, and it was good to see.
Mhm.
I don't know if this will keep either of them in necessarily for future seasons, but it was a good fight nonetheless, and I can't take that away from either of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout outs to both the teams. At the very least, they can say they've had decent enough regular seasons. Overhaul had one of the most fun seasons they've had since 2015. But now it's midway major time. This was a fight I have been hyping up for weeks here at the Combot Collective. We have Fusion, who in my opinion, the best bout machine of this season, only entertaining in electric fights, whether it be a win or a loss, taking on Rotator, a former most destructive winner and one of the most consistent robots in the sport. Fusion is predictably in a 1-2 hole, but Rotator unexpectedly joins them there. Only one could likely find themselves in the round of 32 with this playoff qualifier matchup. And before the fight, I gotta mention this. I swear to God, Victor Soto pulls up with a completely different team for every single fight. I never see the same two people come out of the tunnel with them. It is absolutely jarring. Rotator, though, looks much the usual. 3 forks in the back, horizontal set in an overcutter position for this fight. Fusion, meanwhile, back to using the main vertical spinner weapon without the extra needed top armor. This fight definitely lived up to the hype and anticipation. Match remained a dead heap until pretty much the final 47 seconds of the battle. Rotator started to fight overhead, but within 20 seconds, Fusion joined them as a overhead cutting robot when it got flipped over. And this definitely stunned the vertical spinner on Fusion early. Probably helped Rotator big time in the long run. Rotator kept on getting stunned by Fusion's big hits, but Fusion's internal fire gremlins would, fire back up once again here late into the fight, eventually leading to a knockout in 1 minute and 55 seconds for Rotator. And Victor Soto said after the fight that Rotator was reportedly dealing with some spin-up issues right before this match, making this 3 of 4 regular season fights this year where the former quarterfinalists had some pre-match woes. Hopefully they can get them all fixed before the playoffs. It's going to be a tough field this year, and they might not be a top half seed. Fusion, meanwhile, sits at 1-3 with 3 spectacular fights under its belt. There's going to be a small 3 to 4 robot group with 1 and 3s that are definitely deserving and willing for a bottom 5 playoff spot. The robot that won the next fight's one of them. You'd probably put the loser of Whiplash Tantrum there. Maybe Glitch or Emulsifier if Glitch does win that fight. But you got to put Fusion in there. Fusion's been utterly spectacular. Reese Ewart's been a blast this year. This was a fun one, guys. What's the thoughts?
It was what I expected. Well,
Yeah.
which is I expected the fight to go that way. The fight went that way.
This fight was
Just
going to
like
go one
that.
of two ways. Either Fusion worked or Fusion didn't work, and it caught on fire. So that pretty quickly kind of confirmed my fears that because I mean when Fusion works as it's shown this season, very impressive robot. It's just when it doesn't work, it ends up on fire, and it ended up on fire, unfortunately. Rotator's been having a lot of issues this season, and it's really weird to see because usually they're very consistent robot. I'm not sure if they're another victim of the brushless curse that people seem to have been going through this season, but if they are, that would make a lot of sense because they've been having a lot of those same issues with like struggle keep the weapon going and everything else because they haven't been hitting as hard as they usually do this season. There are a lot of blows. Yeah, there were a lot of blows that Rotator landed that were just kind of, I don't know how else to describe it genuinely other than soggy, because I mean he just kind of like he would hit and then it was kind of nothing after that. It would just stop.
Impacts
dead.
that happened.
Yeah, it would hit and it'd stop dead, and that's not what we're used to seeing from Rotator. So. Hopefully, I mean, I can only assume they're in the top 32. It's Rotator. It's 2 and 2.
Yeah.
I hope that they get their weapon stuff figured out because Rotator, I think, is the closest thing we're ever going to get to see to a modern Surgeon General, and that is why I didn't mean to cut you off there, but it's very funny because while I was watching that fight yesterday and taking a good look at one point, so Rotator got flipped over and I was seeing it on its back for a split second. I was like, man, that's Surgeon General. I had that exact thought watching the fight blazed. And it's kind of cool, we're now at this point now in Robot Combat, and I get where we don't need these Comedy Central names anymore. We have... I mean, why are we having fans be like, oh man, I want Battle Rat back when we have Railgun Max from 2019 there? We want that robot back. Yeah.
And we have robots like this, that are becoming essentially what the modern version of that robot perfected would be. And that's what Rotator is. It's like you look at the 2-wheel drive setup, the shape, the undercutting blade, which can be flipped over for a different angle. Yeah. That's what Julio Roqueta was driving back in the day.
Yeah, I love it so much because I didn't always rock with Rotator, and then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this is the closest we're ever going to get to seeing another Surgeon General, and that made my appreciation for Rotator go through the roof.
Yeah, I rated them so poorly in 2018 because of their awful 2016. And then then their first fight wasn't televised. They lost to Petunia. I thought they were going to be a joke again. Then they obliterated Ice Wave. They beat Tombstone in 2019. I got to see that in person. They've been no joke since. I mean, we talked earlier in this episode about Malice maybe usurping it as the best horizontal spinner in the world. Maybe Bloodsport too, since they beat them this season. But they certainly have a case. They have my respect. Victor Soto is a fantastic builder and driver.
Oh, absolutely. If they get it working again like they had it last season. Because, I mean, in the jackpot fight, it seemed like everything was fixed. It was hitting like a truck again. It was doing really well. Mm-hmm. If we can have that Rotator every fight, it is without a doubt in my mind the best horizontal spinner in the world currently. And I don't think maybe Malice actually can counter that, but I'm not entirely sure.
Book it, Battlebots. First fight for them in 2023. But let's move on now. Scorpius versus Ribbot, another fight with big-time playoff implications. Pory finally got his vindication. The configuration type, big time. I'm happy for you, man. I wish Sub-Zero had this versus Hijinks last season. It's all good. The configuration game was very much hyped up before this fight, had a whole little vignette before it. Neither team really knew what the other was going to bring. We ended up seeing Scorpius rocking the anti-horizontal spinner setup, 2 long forks up front. Ribot, meanwhile, also rocking the vertical spinner with some slimmer forks up front. Kind of, you look at it and you question why Ribot runs this at first, but Battlebots doing the work for me here. Provided some stats at the start of the fight. Scorpius entered this Ribot fight with a 730 winning average over horizontal spinners, a 470 winning average over vertical spinners. WPI, of course, one of the smartest colleges in the U.S., playing it by the numbers here. And as Scott Steiner would say, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for Scorpius here. One of the most brutal defeats we have seen Scorpius suffer in its lengthy career now. Dominance from point A to point B for WPI and Ribot, obliterating the weapon system, both wheels, both forks on Scorpius, along with the Scorpius on Scorpius as well. Just like Big Dill, Ribot showing some late dominance here. Great KO in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And you know, this Scorpius downfall in this matchup started with yet another driving error by this team. I mean, Scorpius held firm control of this fight within the first few seconds, showed they had the ground game, but then they threw their weapon directly into Ribot's weapon 3 times right off the bat and lost it for the fight's remainder for a whole minute and a half. And Scorpius had plenty of better opportunities to strike Ribot later points of this fight. Who knows if it would have done anything, but I mean, I've been critical of Zachary Lytle's decisions inside and outside the battle box this season. I love the team, of course, but from some really weird moves driving the robot in their first 2 matches, even though they did win, of course, they managed to upset everyone with their pick of the Overkill Blade against Saw Blaze. And now this, we'll probably still see Scorpius in the playoffs. We'll talk about Ribot's playoff hopes here in a second. We got a question for that. But what are y'all's thoughts about this fight?
You know, Ribot just doing what it does, you know,
finally
winning, you know, it's just how it is. It wins everything, you know.
Well, that's not his first 3 fights.
Those first 3 fights didn't happen. It was rigged. You know.
Sound like me last year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. It's been a rough year, but they finally did it, and they did it against a robot that's pretty good. And yeah, it's, you know, they're gonna win the nut. That's just how it is.
They still have an outside shot. Even I can't deny it.
It's gonna happen. I mean, personally, I'm gonna be real. I don't think I'm the biggest Ribot fan on earth, but I don't think I accept them into the top 32 at this point.
Oh, really?
I don't think I do.
That's big cheese coming from you. Because I'll go ahead and just.
Here's the thing with the top 32. This is why I'm probably gonna avoid discourse in the Robot Combat community for like a month after brackets revealed.
It's always bad.
It's probably gonna be bad just based on how like every episode they're like strength of schedule, and I personally don't believe that a 1 and 3 should ever make it in over a 2 and 2. I know a lot of people disagree with me.
I agree.
And okay, well, a lot of other people don't agree with that. And when they say strength of schedule, the mindset I'm seeing is like, oh,
you made the schedule.
They made the schedule, and 2, they're acting like getting like your teeth kicked in by Witch Doctor means more than winning against like, I don't know, Ominous or something. Like you know, like they're basically saying like, oh, if you lose to like a really good robot, that means more than winning a fight to a low tier robot, which is honestly silly to me. Unless you put up like something like a Fusion Witch Doctor, that's okay, I think. But when it comes to like a Ribot Witch Doctor, like Ribot didn't really do a lot in that, so I don't think that should be considered. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like if they put up a good fight, then okay, that's fair enough. But their mindset, I think, is like, oh, if this robot loses to like, if this robot gets obliterated by Endgame, then that's basically the same thing as like Shred It Bro beating Overhaul. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
it's a little topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
But we'll see when the
weren't you
bracket
the one-
comes.
you were the one that said that maybe there will be room if they factor in all the 4-0s, 3-1s, 2-2s. There may be room for a couple 1-3s in there by default.
I think,
Because if
yeah,
that's
I mean,
the case,
statistically
I think,
speaking,
you should be able to consider Ribot in there.
I mean, statistically speaking, I'm thinking that when it comes to 4-0, 3-1, and 2-2s, it should be 32 or less. Maybe with like 1 to 3 spaces or so. I'm not 100% sure because upsets could very well happen in the next 2 episodes. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Ribot would be the first 1 and 3 I'd let in.
I would absolutely have to say, like, probably after all the good fights it's put up, maybe Fusion?
Fusion, yeah, like a Fusion would be fine, I think.
Fusion's a good guess.
Yeah, I don't think that. I agree. I don't think Ribot should get in. If it did, I'd be very surprised and probably throw out some accusations of favoritism.
I mean, yeah, they're definitely. I mean, I'll take it because we're going all the way. But I will say that I don't think that I personally would not let them in just because I'm not going to be biased. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there's gonna. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah, my bad. I was originally going to say agree with you and say this is going to give BattleBots some justification to manage to find somewhere to put Ribot in the bracket despite them not really earning it. And 2, I think this is definitely because I've always been of the opinion that Scorpios is a very mediocre robot, and I think this fight kind of proves why, because Ribot, who's decent but admittedly not the best 4-wheel drive vert in the game, really took it to Ribot. And I love Zach. I love Zach and Diane. They're both great
fun.
people. They're very great people, man.
Awesome.
They do a lot for the
I'm a
community.
fan.
But
Videos are great.
yeah, they do great videos. They do great work for the community. But Scorpios has never really stuck out to me as a huge competitor in BattleBots necessarily. I think it's a very good robot. It's a very good mid-tier, but I don't know if it'll ever breach that high tier just because of how crippling of a weakness it seems to have to the main thing that's in BattleBots these days, which is forked verts.
Well, great thing is, like, they're very clearly there to like primarily have fun. Like that's like they're just like in a lot of fights they're like shit posting at this point. Like at the Sawblaze fight. They was like,
Yeah, for sure. That's true.
I think they have a good spot as a gatekeeper of like what makes a robot good and what makes a robot bad. If you can beat Scorpius, you're all right.
Yeah.
Scorpius will win a lot of fights, but it'll also lose a lot of fights. And it's in a good spot. It'll still find itself in the top 32, maybe even top 16 every now and then. But your guys are right. Unless they tighten up their decisions, take it a bit more seriously. I mean, we know they show up coming prepared. They have more spares than just about anybody else, but get a bit more nitty-gritty with it. They might be able to make a deep run, but yeah, they're kind of in the world of average right now. But at least they are in the main field, as now we talk about our all-alternate showdown, our 4th one of the regular season. And this is a battle of the all-undefeated alternates. Dragon King versus Terratops, the once Chinese Dragon King, the literal arena-smashing beast Terratops, who, of course, Terratops turned a ton of heads over this last week. Terratops dominated the former top 32 robot Slammo in its sole alternate fight, while Dragon King bullied Doomba last week for 3 minutes. Both of these robots mostly looking the same from their first outing in the battle box, only different being Terratops now using the asymmetrical blade we see in the bot photo. Decent fight here. Dragon King showed some impressive control, even a little bit of damage to the ribcage of Terratops early on, but the fight really would be decided by that huge strike Terratops delivered to Dragon King's shred over by the driver's side corner. Huge shades of Bombshell and Red Devil during the Losers Rumble in 2018. Terratops, though, lost its weapon from the impact, which led it to be a lifter bot for the remaining portion of the fight. Still did good, though. Managed 2 suplexes before time was up. Dragon King was dead in the water amidst the final 10 seconds of the fight. The 3rd robot to have this happen this episode. Funny note there. Terratops easily wins the judge's decision and improves to 2-0. More wins than many other robots in the main field. I mean, not factoring in this fight yet, they sit top 15 on the TCC overall rankings after what they did at RoboGames. They're looking pretty solid. Both these robots have looked pretty solid. I'll give these guys their credit. Out of all the alternates, I think these guys have been my favorites, and that's not too bold of a take. Both of these guys look great. The colors just match great for a fight like this.
Yeah,
But what are y'all's thoughts on the new blood in the box?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say this has to be the first time in BattleBots where 2 yellow robots fought. Weird statistic.
I almost want to spend 2 hours looking into that, but
I don't know. I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, there haven't been a lot of yellow robots. Period. What is there? There's Stinger. There's.
I was gonna say
the
that
robots are sick.
that's a weird statistic, but I'd almost be willing to say that it's probably right.
It's a weird
not-
statistic,
Yeah.
but like I can't imagine. At least in modern BattleBots, I can't imagine. But
I genuinely can't think of it. Yeah.
But
Huh.
yeah, it was a good performance on Terratop's part, and they're definitely a very solid bot. I mean, that's solid for a first build, period. But like, they're just definitely turning heads. Like combined with the 2 wins in BattleBots now and the RoboGames performance. I mean, the big conversation I think is Terratop's making the main competition next season. I feel like that's looking very good for them.
Yeah,
Like even
it-
without
it-
RoboGames, it was looking good. But then RoboGames happened, and like I feel like BattleBots has to be looking even at their losses, like with White Rabbit. I mean, like even when they lose like pretty, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, when we were looking at Terratops entering this thing, I was surprised they were even an alternate to begin with.
Yeah.
And then they beat a former playoff robot in Slammo. I think that made the selection team think, oh, we made a mistake here. But then they defeat Dragon King. And before RoboGames, we were all thinking, oh, yeah, Terratops is going to be in the 50 next year. But after RoboGames, now the topics, oh, yeah, they're going to be in the top 16 next year. And that's what happens when you have a good rep outside of BattleBots like that. You turn yourself up to that level. We're going to see a proper arms race for Rookie of the Year next year between Terratops and Manta, and it's going to be so much fun to watch.
That'll be
can't wait.
That'll be a good thing. And I mean, Terratops has a lot to offer. It's got a really good spinner that hits really hard, and it's one of the few lifter bots we've seen over the years in BattleBots that can, lift a robot. I don't know, is that crazy?
I think that Terratops is like what I wish that Whiplash was, which is a good themed lifter spinner that like is still impressive. Terratops did
I love
exactly
the
what...
dinosaur.
No, it's great. I love it.
Oh, it's great.
The Terratops did exactly what I thought it would do in this fight, basically. I mean, I expected it to win. It showed that it's not only does it have a good spinner, but it has a very good lifter as well. I mean, it dominated the fight with the lifter. We saw how good its strategy worked in fights like with the Slammo fight. I mean, we saw that it can actually use the lifter and the spinner in the same attack, do like a little wombo combo, and that was very. I'm very impressed with Terratops just in general. This is a first time bot, right? Like a first.
Yeah, I don't think the guys built any robot like combat robot.
I mean, that's incredible. They're a genuine contender, and for their first robot, I mean, this thing is very impressive. I was happy with it. It's definitely going to be in contention for Rookie of the Year next year, absolutely, I think. Although I would pick Manta over it if they both got in. But,
depends on what Manta does in BattleBots. I mean, you never know what they might do
true.
there. You know?
Make him fight in round 3. I don't know why round 3. It feels like a good round 3 fight.
Yeah.
That arena's going to hold up. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny we mentioned Rookie of the Year because our next fight withholds what I imagine will probably be the recipient of that award this year.
Yeah, we mentioned it's going to be an arms race next year. There ain't no arms race this year.
Not at all.
This was insane. Copperhead versus Ripperoni, our main event. Copperhead 3-0, looking to become the second perfect season at World Championship 7. I've been giving BattleBots credit. Better schedules this year, but not all schedules can be created equal no matter how hard you try. Pretty easy to tackle schedule for Copperhead this year. But they have one more stop if they want to be perfect, and that would be the new fan favorite of 2022, 2023, whatever year you want to classify this as. Omega Team, sponsor here, Ripperoni. You know, they have the momentum of the entire sports community on its side entering this fight. The fans were behind them chanting pizza, pizza.
Pizza.
Man. Both were already playoff locks entering this main event fight, but whoever won this likely would be leaving a top 10 seed. Team Copperhead has been a revolving door of elite Roboteers as captain, but Luke Quinn has seriously brought some showmanship to the team, giving Copperhead that spark that they really haven't had the past few seasons. They've been good, but they've sort of just been there. They've really felt like they've had some pizzazz this season. I love it. And some great stats before the fight as well. Ripperoni had the weapon weight and spin-up advantage. Copperhead, the quicker robot. Would have liked to see the reach for each robot be added here as well, though. I would imagine a big lead for Ripperoni. Would have been fascinating to see. John Remar, though, line of the episode before the fight. For the record, I like pizza and snakes all the same. I wonder if he really likes snakes or he really hates pizza. I wonder where he sits in the ballpark here of the tier list of items.
I think that hating pizza is a crime against humanity, so I can't imagine he hates pizza.
Right? It's easy. I can see John Remar being a snake guy. This is Betsy, guys. This is my ballpark. I can see him being that guy. Neither robot here really known for the configuration games. By the way, I missed the Copperhead snake. I guess that was just a Cowan thing. But we get a straight fight here. Like I said, no configurations. But before the fight, what were you saying?
It was in this, the little tiny snake. Oh, no, are you talking about like the actual snake?
Yeah,
the real one.
Oh,
yeah.
I
no,
think
I
they,
missed that too, man. Yeah, that thing was
they got
cool.
it from like a zoo or something.
I think so.
Bring it back. It needs to be like fucking Jake the Snake Roberts type deal, and you gotta have it in every fight. Yeah.
We have like University of Texas bring a fucking bull to every football game. We could have them bring a snake. We don't mind the snake. But talking about this fight, I lost my place in my notes here. Okay, here we go. Like I said, neither robot really known for the configuration game, and both teams admitted to being scared of the other's weapon before the fight. And like we saw during Saw Blaze versus Hydra, when you drive reactively instead of aggressively, it leads to mistakes. Copperhead, drive cautiously, drive reactively, and it accidentally exposes Flake to Frederick Moore, who's a balls to the wall kind of guy, stayed aggressive, managed to knock out Copperhead. 2 strikes, maybe 3, I don't remember, but it was under a minute. Crazy upset here. The secret sauce, that gyroscopic internal disc, has been working for perfection for Ripperoni. And even if they are from a veteran team, and Zolnikov is a rookie captain, and they've pretty much made themselves a lock for Battlebots Rookie of the Year. Copperhead, though, after having one of the most dominant starts of any robot this year, comes just short of reaching the undefeated mark for a 3rd straight season. Ripperoni wins via KO here in 44 seconds. They're both 3-1. They're both into the playoffs. Ripperoni's likely going to be one of the highest seeded new robots in a long time. We haven't seen a robot make it out of the top 8 in their first season since Monsoon and Riptide, so the precedent is there. Can we see this robot make it top 4, guys? What are y'all's thoughts about this exciting main event?
Man, Ripperoni was really cooking today. I mean, they were working. The vertical spinner on Ripperoni is very mean, as we saw in the Hijinks fight especially. But in this fight, I mean, I'm not sure. I think in the post damage or like the post fight report, it didn't really do a whole lot of external damage. I think most of it was just shock and internal damage, especially because I mean it had some big hits. Like it launched Copperhead to multiple feet in the air. It was pretty
rocked it. Actually.
Yeah, this is what I've been saying about Copperhead for a while. It's a very much so a glass cannon. I've always criticized Copperhead for being very fragile, and it definitely showed that here today. I mean, I really do question why they didn't go weapon to weapon, because it feels like Copperhead would have won that exchange. They tried to get fancy with it.
I think so.
And Ripperoni just blasted them for it, man. I mean, that was impressive.
Yeah.
Ripperoni's giving them the business, though. Everybody. I mean, it has been so very impressive this season. I've absolutely loved watching Ripperoni. I'm excited to see them come back in future seasons. And Fred Moore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's mean on the sticks. I mean, he knows how to drive that robot, despite it
Drove
being such
Valkyrie
a
well too.
yeah, despite Ripperoni being such an awkward and goofy looking robot. I mean, that he can drive it like he stole it. I
Mm.
mean, really, he's very impressive on the sticks. And
Yeah.
Ripperoni's just a really mean machine. I hope they go far, and I hope to see more from them next season too. Especially,
Yeah.
if they manage to make improvements on an already incredible robot like that, I'll be all for it. It's one of my favorites this season by far.
I really like Ripperoni a lot. That's definitely my favorite newcomer. I love the
Oh,
pizza
absolutely.
theming. I mean, I was sold on them just from the pizza theming alone, and then they ended up being good on
Yeah.
top of that. I'm like, hell yeah.
Dude, I thought they were going to be like a kind of a goofy team this year. I didn't
Oh, I
expect them
thought so
to.
too. After the
Yeah.
drop fight, even I was like,
thought that-
oh, it's the funny robot, and then it just like beat Endgame. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had so much experimental stuff. One wheel's bigger than the other. It looks like a Picasso painting. I thought it was definitely going to take a year or two to get the kinks worked out, and kind of what Death Roll had to go through. But no, the pizza has been expedited. It's out on the floor. It's getting delivered, and it's on the way to the playoffs now. What a great run by Omega Team, and I'm so happy for them. Honestly, talking about Frederick Moore, what a get to take Frederick Moore from questionable designs while they were going through their shift in leadership there. A lot of Team Valkyrie people lost in that shuffle. I mean, Leanne Cushing may be back for 2023, but she ain't going to have the pizza man there. Head chef's not going to be there. He's with Ripperoni now. Hopefully they can get Lucy Dew more time behind the stick. She's been driving a lot of undercutters at NHRL, so I'm sure she will be better next year. But shout outs to Ripperoni, man. I hope they go far this year. But there we go, guys. 7 fights up, 7 fights down for Battlebots. We also talked about all the big developments at RoboGames. This might be our longest Robot Combat Tonight episode yet in our short time. We got a lot of content here, a lot of great discussion.
Yeah,
Now, cap it off with a little bit of fun. Pory, we were talking about it at the top of the episode.
Oh yeah, I got
In fact, I ruined the perfect segue here. We were just talking about Valkyrie. Shit.
Yeah.
Speaking of Valkyrie, I know you got something in a new coffee table or
New coffee
I think
table.
you should
I
make
could
it a
use
coffee
it as
table. It would
I
be
could
sick.
use it as a coffee table if I had room for
You'd
it.
have to be.
I'm probably just gonna prop it on. Well, I'm moving right now. I'm probably just gonna like prop it on the wall next to that, and like the deadlift arm will probably just be like propped on the wall next to my closet, just so they're on display. Maybe when I have a space with a larger living space, maybe I could use it as a coffee table. But yeah, I bought Valkyrie's disc Dr. Teeth, as used in the Blip fight. It's
Oh
mass-
yeah, the playoff fight.
It's a massive piece. It's heavier than Gamma Raptor. It's a very heavy piece for sure, and it's big and bulky. It's cool though. I really like it. It's the work they put onto like designing it is really impressive. Just like looking at it in person, holding it in person, it's a lot like thicker than I thought it would be, which is cool.
It's always. I mean, even when because I've been to Battlebots firsthand. I got to walk around the pits. I know firsthand how big the robots are and how deceiving they are, but it's so easy to forget even after a while. Because like when this piece was gifted to me, it's P1's wheel. You don't think of P1's wheel being that big. Look at this thing. You can do reps with it.
Oh,
and when I saw the picture that you shared on your Discord of the Valkyrie blade being shipped in, and it literally is taking up the entire recliner.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, there we go.
It's huge.
That's
And
badass,
I mean, I
though.
could eclipse Gamma Raptor with it. But like I feel like I've had that feeling pretty much every time I've gotten a robot part. Even the Tantrum wheel I got, I was like, wow, this is larger than I anticipated. The deadlift arm, I was like, this is bigger. Gamma Raptor was a lot larger than I expected. But I guess the robots back then were generally less compact, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Gamma Raptor probably is rivaling the size of like a Copperhead or a Tantrum, I'd say. Just because older robots are a lot larger. But yeah, it's just always deceiving watching them on the show and then seeing them in person and be like, oh wow, that's a lot larger than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, it's just another of those things. Everyone, you got to get out. Even if it's a sportsman event, get out. If you see a heavyweight event, even a state over, go to it. You won't regret it. Just seeing these robots firsthand, even if a heavyweight's just on display at like a convention or something, or we see plenty of times, especially teams like Witch Doctor and Glitch, bringing the robot out everywhere. Just go out and see it. It's amazing to see these things in person, and you got quite a collection now, Pory. You got some big pieces. And you gave Team Valkyrie a little bit of a dough when they have their big bounce back 2023 season next year.
Yeah.
You can be like, I helped the cause.
I helped the
I
cause.
put a couple
yeah.
bucks in that piggy bank.
I did.
Haha.
I'm hoping they
That's
make a comeback, I mean, we'll have to see. I think
Right.
they still have a fight left, so we'll see.
Right. And it's against Glitch. It's going to be a very interesting fight. Talking about Terratop's Dragon King, talking about aesthetically pleasing fights, that's going to be an aesthetically pleasing fight. But that's all of our topics here. RoboGames was a lot of fun, even though a little bit iffy. Get that arena fixed, David.
I had a good time. I gifted Pokemon a sub to RoboGames during the presentation.
Yeah, Pory was at the top of the list all weekend. He gave.
I was the top of the sub list the entire weekend.
He gave a sub to Pokemon, Tyler Ninja Blevins, me, Zaza, and a few other people. I can't remember who.
Amaranth. Amaranth and Hassan Abi I gave a sub to. I was just looking up like top streamers and
you were just oh my shit balls.
I hope they I hope they one day like look through like their subs and be like, what the hell, this weird guy subbed me to like a robot combat thing, and it gets them into it.
Oh my gosh.
That would be base.
I'm glad that I gift sub Pokemon was to RoboGames was one of the very last lines in this episode. So 'cause that's the tag right there. I'm gonna sync people in with that one.
Yeah, you gotta make that like the preview for the beginning of the episode.
You've got to do like
a
part of the thumbnail just has to be like a big red circle around a gift sub thing.
I don't do this.
Put Pokemon's face up there. Like
you're gonna make the haters think I'm even more like TMZ. No,
wait, hold on. We got a screen cap of the Pokemon sub.
Oh, do you? Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think Zaza posted
big red
in like the corner screen. I'll put it in the corner screen.
Big red circle around it. Her face in the middle, doing like the fucking like the Pog face, like.
Oh my goodness. But. Before this gets any more out of hand, you've been here for nearly 2 hours of awesome robot combat discussion. If you made it this far, whether you be watching live right now or on YouTube in a couple of days, thank you so much for watching this third episode of Robot Combat tonight. The flow of the show's getting a bit more there now that we're getting the co-host there. Hopefully after a month or two, we can start bringing in some guests for some interviews from some of these robot combat teams. We know we've had some awesome people join the server lately, like Kevin Lilly from Team Tastes Like Burning, like Jeff Waters from Team Jackpot. Of course, we have Tony D'Ambrosio here, Team ULL from the UK. A lot of awesome people. Thank you all for being here, whether you're a subscriber or in the Discord server. Thank you so much. This has been Robot Combat tonight here with the Combot Collective. I'm your host, as always, Sterling Brown, a.k.a. Sterling TXTG on Instagram. Follow me there. I'm here with Pory Nog Captain Mantine. Of course, Pory Nog, you can find him on his YouTube page, dippyegg.xyz. It'll be linked in the description below. But Mantine, Pory, do y'all have anything new y'all want to plug? I know it's been a couple months.
New videos coming soon.
I'm gonna start uploading on my YouTube channel, guys. I promise. It's only been a full year. I'm coming back. I'm making my return very soon. Captain Manta on YouTube. You already know.
Absolutely. Definitely check them out. They're awesome people. The content will be great. Both those links will be in the description below, along with our sponsor, robotsruinmylife.com. You heard them at the top of the video. Check out their merch. Support Shred Bro. Support Ripperoni. Get that pizza box. And as always, social media links. Follow us on Instagram and Discord. All of our video posts there. All of our news posts go there. All of our live stream posts go there. If you want to hear these Robot Combat Tonight tapings live, join our Discord server. The link will be in the description below. Well, that's all we have to plug here. We'll see you next time for more Robot Combat Tonight action, more stuff to talk about, Week 14 of Battlebots, live events. We'll see what we're going to be covering. We'll probably start talking about the UK scene a bit. We'll see you then. Adios.
This was the Combot Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.